Hello and welcome to another episode of Earth911's Sustainability in Your Ear. I'm Mitch Ratcliffe, and we're back with another innovator interview. You know, I've been working on lowering my environmental footprint for several years very diligently, and I look more and more to apps to help me find opportunities to create savings, reduce my footprint, and make better decisions in life. But it's not easy to find and stick to those changed habits. Tiago-Ferreira, who is our guest today, worked with a team to create an app called ChangeIt. The app is designed to coach users through adopting new habits, and unlike other apps, does not first walk the user through calculating their carbon footprint. It focuses on savings. The company says it's an app for busy people that want to fight climate change, and you can learn more about it at ChangeIt. That's all one word, ChangeIt.app. So let's dig into the ChangeIt app and how it works. Welcome to the show, Tiago. How are you today?
Hey, Mitch. I'm great. Thank you for having me.
Well, hey, thank you for joining us and talking about the app. First, tell us how it works. It launches with an initial goal, such as cutting your CO2 by a certain number of kilograms per month, and then offers an action to achieve that. In my case, it suggested driving less and reducing beef consumption as my first steps. How did you come up with the approach to focusing on savings rather than establishing that baseline and then asking people to work away from how much carbon they're producing?
Right. Yeah, that's an excellent question. So let me just give you a little bit the background why I came up with this app. I was watching a documentary, the new documentary about climate change by David Attenborough, and again, like any other documentary about this topic, it got me feeling really hopeless and powerless. I didn't know how could I actually do something about it, because in the end, they always suggest, okay, politicians must do something. And I thought, okay, it's enough. Enough is enough. I will do an impact and try to change at least my own impact, even it might be really, really low. At least I'm doing something, right? So I dig in, and the first thing I did obviously was trying to search for apps that would help me doing this, right? And I figured that most of the apps, they had a very hard setup. So I had to spend a lot of time to calculate my footprint, to the decimal. And in the end, I felt that it actually didn't help me so much. And it just took a bunch of my time, and I couldn't actually come up with solutions and ways to reduce my impact. So I thought, okay, maybe I can do something here. Maybe it's also an opportunity to create an app that tries to target more people like me. So maybe not people that want to fully calculate their footprint, but to instead just find out about actions that they can do to reduce their footprint. So I tried from the start to have a very simple approach that anyone could just start the app, and in the first maybe 1 minute of usage, immediately figure out what they can do to reduce their impact, and also to connect their actions with the CO2, so the real CO2 of each action, right? Because as you know, one thing is you can turn off your light bulb, and that, of course, has an impact, but it has a much bigger impact if you reduce your beef consumption, for instance. So right. I think it's also important to distinguish those two.
So one of the things that I found when I got started is that I'd already done a few things, and I checked those off, and your app actually gives you the kind of, I'm working on this, or I've already done this. So you start accounting all of your improvements right from the start, and that was engaging. It made me feel like, okay, I can see where this is going to give me the encouragement based on feedback to continue to make changes. Now, you launched last year. Who's using the app right now, and how much do you think that they are already saving in terms of their personal footprint?
Yeah. So also, again, a little bit of context. I launched last year, so end of 2020. It's in December, and it's like a one-man operation, right? So I'm building this alone. I have a couple of help, but it's not like a company yet. So I'm really trying to build the app from scratch and doing small iterations. And so far we have more than 2,000 downloads and roughly 500 active users per month, and I figured that, so that my main markets are US, then Germany, then also Portugal, because I'm from Portugal, and those are my main markets. And of course, then the app is available all over the world, but those are the people that use it the most. And I also figured out that my users, and also a little bit, that's what I'm targeting. I'm targeting people that are in the beginning of their sustainability path. So of course they believe in climate change. They want to do something about it, but they are no experts, so they just want to learn. And I also figured out that most of them were already doing a couple of things, like you just said. So most of them could already tick one or two of these actions, and they end up learning about the impact of other actions.
Now, you mentioned you've had about 2,000 downloads, but you also have a community conversation going on through the chat app Discord, and you have more than 2,000 users there. It's about 2,200 users on that. So are you finding that the app is an introduction to this growing community of conversation? And what's going on Discord that's different than in the app?
No, so on Discord, we have 25 users.
Oh, I'm sorry. It says talk to 2,108 or 80. I can't remember which. I just looked at it.
Right. Yeah, I got you. No, so that's the okay. Maybe that's just the wording that isn't correct. So what I try to say is that there's a community. There's more than 2,000 downloads, but then the ones that actually came to Discord, it's only about 25 to 26, and those are kind of the most maybe active users. And of course, the goal would be to have the full community there, exchanging ideas. But so far, I think it's a slow process to get there. So far, we are only roughly 25 people there, and the idea is to basically discuss ideas, also to collect feedback from the users of the app so that we can improve it. And that's kind of the point. But I can see how you might thought that it was 2,000.
Well, regardless, what kinds of things are they talking about on Discord that are they talking about what's going on in the app, the suggestions you're making, which you put out a new suggestion about once a month. So does that drive enough conversation to keep people engaged in making these changes?
So I find that building a community, it's always very hard. And especially in the beginning, it requires a lot of effort from the moderator to always come up with new topics. The idea initially was to create a forum or a channel for each action, so that if people want to reduce their car usage or reduce their meat intake or something, they could have a specific channel for that. But I quickly realized that with such a low number of people, it just doesn't work to have one channel for everything. So we basically have one general channel where the most active users discussed. And as you said, so it's mostly feedback for the app, and also sometimes some new projects. So today there was someone also speaking about, for instance, the online horse racing. So he said that of course the industry of horse racing is not the best. So there are some new projects where with cryptocurrency you can race your horses in a much more sustainable way. So people also suggest or show new projects that they're passionate about. They also make questions about, let's say, what is your favorite vegetarian dish, and how do you convince your parents to eat less meat, for instance. So these are kind of the topics we discussed there.
So let's talk about some of the suggestions that are in the app. They're pretty general, like help your community or company become greener. And that says you can save approximately 500 kilograms of emissions per month by doing so. There's not much in terms of what you can actually do. So do you have any sense of how people are acting on this recommendation? And do you expect to give them more guidance or have people share more guidance about what you could do in terms of recycling in the office or creating a community glass collection program?
Yeah. So the way that the app is designed is you commit to an action, and when you commit to an action, you will start getting personalized notifications that will help you achieve your goal, right?
So what would the recommendations be for help your community or company become greener?
Yeah. So in that one is let's say organize, or I think a good example is if your company is not recycling, so because a lot of companies still don't do that, so try to set up recycling bins everywhere in the office so that people can use it. Or for instance, in my previous company, initially everyone would have plastic bottles, water bottles, and after a while people kind of got together and were able to change to everyone have to have their own bottles. So that's a huge impact in terms of plastic waste. So these are the kind of notifications, for instance, in terms of office-wise, that we suggest. And this is actually quite a new action, that one. It's because we truly believe that reaching out to your community and convincing your peers is probably the best thing you can do personally to reduce the impact. But we still are coming up with more ideas. But yeah, those are the kind of the notifications we'll send for that particular action.
So
and
how do you build the guides around each of these suggestions? Are you yourself doing the research? Do you have people that are working with you to create these programs?
So yeah, I'm basically myself doing the research. I have a couple of people also helping me, but as a volunteering basis. And it's most of this information is online anyway. So that's kind of what I figured out. A lot of this information is scattered on Google, on the internet. And this app and kind of our mission is to bring sustainability accessible to everyone. So by bringing this information accessible, we believe that we can make a real impact. But most of this is information that is online, and we take hours and hours trying to figure out if the information is accurate, and sharing with our users.
So another feature of the app is that you have a shopping guide of sustainable products. How do you decide what ends up in the app, and what are the criteria that you use to establish that a product is actually going to make a difference in the carbon emissions that the user produces?
Yeah. Great question. So back to the mission, right? So the idea is to make sustainability accessible. And I realized that a lot of people started to be more sustainable because some products, let's say a shampoo, a solid shampoo without plastic, started to become available in their supermarket. And that's why they started. So our goal was, okay, maybe let's make these products available to everyone, because a lot of people don't know that they even exist. And there's no science here, so we try to go through some of our actions, and some of them, because I'm also going through this journey trying to live a more sustainable life. And a great example is to reduce your plastic. There's so many options in the market for you to reduce your plastic that we just see whatever I am using, and I use that, and I search, okay, if I'm using this, I tested it works, then let's add it to the store. Also, a lot of our users also suggest products that we end up also adding to the store. And I also try to figure out what companies are working are trying, this concept of B corporations, right? So companies that do not focus only in economic growth, but also in sustainability. So I also try to find these kind of companies and add them to our store.
So digging into that a little bit deeper. So you said that you put in products that work, but how do you know they work? How do you know that, for instance, that it is going to improve one's sustainability to purchase the product? You're describing a pretty open-ended set of criteria. If it works, or we get a suggestion, are you vetting those suggestions and looking, for instance, at the life cycle analysis of the product or the company's overall environmental performance? Does that contribute to how you determine what lands in the store?
Right. So let's say, for instance, the LED bulb line, and figure out what is the difference from an incandescent bulb and the LED bulb, and you can really calculate how much CO2 you will save by replacing your bulb for a LED bulb. So those are quite simple, and so some others are of course a little bit harder to calculate. So let's say, for instance, a drought excluder
Yeah, we would call that a window or a door draft sealer here. And that is, it's certainly something that is a good choice to make. But what about the product itself? You look at the product
Exactly.
to determine whether or not it is more sustainably made than other sealers. That's also a component of, buying more is not necessarily the only answer to our problems.
Your question was if I look to the product itself, right, to see if it's sustainable.
Yes.
Some of the products I test them myself, and I actually acquire them, and I see if they work, and I only add them to the store if they actually made an impact in my own day-to-day.
Okay.
Others, it's also if I just research the company itself and I try to figure out, I read a lot of the reviews. So a lot of these products come from Amazon, and I just try to read all the reviews and try to understand if people are happy with the products. So that's kind of the research we do. And and that's basically how we figured out. Our goal is, of course, that in the future with a bigger team, and we can actually focus more in the research and to make sure that every product is sustainable from end to end. But in a moment, we are still, some of the products we just believe to be more sustainable, and it makes sense, and we read the reviews and they check out. But of course, we are not 100% sure if they are fully sustainable.
Okay, well, and we certainly agree that you need to look at that full life cycle. Now, one of the things that you mentioned earlier is that you're a multicultural app. You've got several European countries, the U.S. Do you think that we need to facilitate more conversation across national boundaries about how individuals can make changes and learn from one another? Because we do things differently in different parts of the world. How's the ChangeIt app? How are you thinking about using the ChangeIt app to facilitate those conversations?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I can tell you that a lot of the negative feedback I'm getting is people saying that it should be, the change should come from the government, and instead of a bottom-up approach. Mm-hmm. And I think, we are taking this wrong a little bit, right? So climate change is the world problem. It's not a country problem, right?
Right.
And a lot of people say that certain countries producing more than other countries, but in the end, this is a global economy, right? So we are buying from, let's say, China, right? So we are also somehow motivating pollution that is happening there to build the products that we love to use, right? Mm-hmm. So I truly believe that this is a world problem, and we should all learn from one another. But of course, that in different, let's say, for instance, in India, it's a very different reality than in Europe, right? So I noticed that a lot of actions do not apply there. So, for instance, in India, I think more than 40% of the people are vegetarian. Mm-hmm. So that's already a huge reduction in CO2 that, for instance, we don't have here in Europe. So certain actions do not apply so much. But I also see, for instance, that there are a lot of recipes, because in India they cook these amazing curries and these amazing vegetarian meals that we can adopt in Europe and in the US. And we can bring this to our culture, and we can learn how to cook more vegetarian, right? So we definitely can learn from one another. And our goal is, with the Discord community, to make people speak with each other. And I also want to build in more features for community inside the ChangeIt app.
Do you think that you need to incent people to make those contributions? Could we do something? For instance, you've got a challenge of the month this month about send a picture of a delicious vegetarian meal through the Discord channel. Could we encourage people, say in India, who are cooking great vegetarian meals, to share recipes globally through an app like ChangeIt? It could just be credit to some kind of a purchase online, but you're talking about the need for an impetus for change, and there's bottom up and there's top down, and it's clear government is not going to lead the way. Citizens have to pull us in the direction of sustainability. How do you think that you can build an app that will both get people to think about their personal decisions, but also communicate about those decisions so that we create a movement?
Yeah. I mean, that's a great question. It's a question that I ask myself every day. And one thing is for sure, if we go to Reddit, if you go to all the forums, sustainability forums, you can see already people coming together. For instance, in Reddit, there's the vegan forum where people share ideas for recipes and share their. So people are eager to share what they accomplish and the tips that they learn and they were able to figure out to become more sustainable. So I think the will is there. Now, the question that you made, and it's an excellent question, how can we make that into an app? And I've been focusing a lot in gamification, trying to create a game out of ChangeIt somehow and somehow promote and reward people that contribute the most. And that's definitely what it's coming next for ChangeIt. That's definitely the features I'm working at. It's hard, try to make a gamification. It's always difficult.
Yeah,
but it's definitely something.
Particularly when you talk about across cultures, because there are different motivations.
Yeah, absolutely. And so one thing also that I'm trying to do is to make also the content personalized, because let's say if I'm in my community, right, maybe there's a market where people sell plastic-free goods, right? And it's very hard for me, one person building ChangeIt, to know that in that particular city there's that market. So I also want to gather these communities so that they can help one another, and I can gather people from Lisbon, from Berlin, from all over the world to get together and also help each other more locally, but cross country and cross continent. That's definitely a hard challenge, and it's something that I would love to fix for sure.
Well, it's it's a great goal, and I want to thank you for taking time to talk to us about ChangeIt today, Tiago.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It's great, and also I really appreciate what you guys are doing with your podcast.
Well, thank you. We're trying to help too.
Yeah.
We've been talking with Tiago-Ferreira, who is the creator of the ChangeIt app. He also mentioned when we were offline that the average savings per user is about 200 kilograms per month. So, it's helping people make their personal changes. Check it out. It's at ChangeIt.app. That's all one word, ChangeIt.app. And let us know what you think. We're also looking for better tools to make our own decisions. This is Earth911 Sustainability in Your Ear. I'm Mitch Ratcliffe, and we're going to be back with another innovator interview soon. In the meantime, folks, take care of yourself, take care of one another, and let us all take care of this beautiful planet of ours. Have a green day.